Justin Houston is now a member of the Carolina Panthers. So, where does that leave the Baltimore Ravens? Welcome in to Ravens Rundown as we discuss the possible replacement options for Justin Houston. Now, recently the Ravens met with Kyle Van Noy. They also met with Dawuane Smoot. Smoot ended up signing with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So now the Ravens have to do something. What are they going to do from here to find that pass rusher they are looking for? On today's show, I got 3 names to watch. We'll give you some information, some statistics, analysis on potential players that the Ravens could be signing for that replacement of Justin Houston. Best of luck to Justin in Carolina, but nonetheless, the show goes on as they say. We'll get to that full list in a moment, but first, someone commented 100 times on a Steelers video over on Steelers Talk with my buddy Jack Sperry, and Sperry's been in my ear about it all weekend. And I'm like, you know what, Sperry? I've had it. We can do better here on Ravens Rundown. So here's what I want to do. For everyone that puts at least 100 comments on today's video, later this week here on Ravens Rundown, I'm going to shout you out. So there's the challenge to you. They don't think we can do that. Steelers Talk is talking smack. I want to take it to them, show that our fans are better. So let's see how many can do that. Everyone that does at least 100 comments on today's video, you are getting a shout-out. We'll show you some love here later in the week on Ravens Rundown. Let's start with the player that we mentioned off the top. That would be Kyle Van Noy. And Van Noy has had a very fine career to this point. The conversations that the Ravens had with Kyle Van Noy was within the last couple of weeks. And I know what you may be thinking. Kyle Van Noy, is he a little bit older now? I mean, yes, he is. But what we saw last year, there was still something left in the tank. I'll get some statistics here in just a second, but let's go with the resume first. He's played with the Chargers, the Patriots, the Dolphins, the Lions, been with several different teams, a 2-time Super Bowl champion. And when he was with the Patriots, getting those 2 Super Bowls, he played a critical role on those Patriots teams. He was named to the all-decade team for the New England Patriots last decade. He was that important for their success there. Now, you may, like I mentioned earlier, you may be wondering, what does he exactly have left at this point? Well, you can see these statistics from Kyle Van Noy was still very effective in 2022 with 46 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 3 pass breakups. He was solid. The year prior to that, 66 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 10 pass breakups, 1 interception. 2020, 69 tackles, nice, with 12 tackles for loss, 6 pass breakups, no interceptions. 2019 with 56 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 3 pass breakups. So Kyle Van Noy still has something left in the tank at this point. Not just a good leader, a good teammate, a champion in his own right, but still has that skill set to get it done to be an effective pass rusher as far as that goes. So watch out. Kyle Van Noy could be who the Ravens go with to replace Justin Houston. What do you think? Let's start with Kyle Van Noy. Should the Ravens sign him or not? Type Y for yes, in for no. Should they make a move for Kyle Van Noy? It's our pinned comment today. Weigh in. Tell us what you think in the comment section. Y for yes, in for no, if the Ravens should sign Kyle Van Noy or not. Number 2 on our list, this is a guy that is getting a lot of attention when you talk about needing a veteran pass rusher. This guy's name usually comes up first among most teams around the National Football League. That would be former number 1 overall pick, Jadeveon Clowney. Clowney, same age as Kyle Van Noy. They both came out in 2014, and he also has been a journeyman of sorts. We've seen him with Houston, Seattle, Tennessee, and Cleveland, and maybe he hasn't quite lived up to the number 1 overall pick label, but he still had a very good career with 3-time Pro Bowler, second-team All-Pro in 2016. But then the next question becomes, okay, we know what he did in the past, but what have you done for me lately? And that's where things get kind of concerning of sorts for Jadeveon Clowney. Twofold, right, with Clowney. One, production was down last year. He went from 9 sacks to 2 sacks, which was a significant fall off there from 2021 to 2022, but also the availability factor. He was injured a decent amount last year, missing 5 games, missed time in 2020. You can see 2021 as well. you can see in that 4-year stretch, he hasn't been able to play every game every season. And another factor, too, when you compare 2021 to 2022, you may be saying, well, he missed 5 games. Of course, production was going to be off. Sure. But there was only a 2-game difference between 2021 and 2022, and you could see production fell off significantly there. It was an odd fit, and what Cleveland was trying to do in their defense didn't necessarily work out. Clowney, still a terrific talent, but I do wonder about the health status, how much you can depend on him, how much he can be available there, and how effective he can be, because last year was a disappointment. If we were having this conversation last offseason, then I would have said, hey, Clowney's coming off a 9-sack season, 11 tackles for loss. Yeah, could make a lot of sense for Clowney. But last year was kind of a red flag of some sorts. But you could argue he might be due for a bounce back. So, who's a pass rusher Baltimore should sign? We've given you a couple names. We still got another name to get to. But weigh in, tell us in the comment section who you would like to see end up with the Baltimore Ravens. Folks, you will want to make sure and join us coming up on Saturday night for our first Ravens watch party of 2023, as we'll be live for the entire game and having a Super Chat Palooza, giving away some prizes, having a great time here on the channel coming up on Saturday night for our Ravens-Eagles watch party. We'll get going about 30 minutes prior to kickoff, and you will not want to miss it. If you enjoy our daily segments, you haven't seen nothing yet. You are in for a treat when you join us on Saturday night. So I need you to subscribe. That way we make sure you're here for this watch party coming up on Saturday. And between now and then, the Battle of the Birds of the Ravens and the Eagles here, we're going to do a sub-battle with our Eagles channel all this week leading up to this game. And you can see they're already off to a head start with about 20 new subscribers. We haven't picked up any new subscribers yet. So let's do our part. Sub for Ravens Dubs. If you want more Ravens coverage, want to join us for a watch party and want your Ravens to win, remember, they got the best record when it comes to the preseason. The Ravens don't lose in the preseason. Don't take any chances. Subscribe to the channel now. Let's take down Eagles now and win this sub-battle here this week leading up to kickoff. Last name on the list is Melvin Ingram. And Melvin Ingram, kind of like the other two guys that we've talked about earlier, has been around of some sorts. He's played for a couple different teams over the last few seasons. And Melvin Ingram has still brought a lot to the plate as far as I'm concerned. He was a first-round pick out of South Carolina, much like Jadeveon Clowney in 2012, and previously played for Miami, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, also played for the LA Chargers, and he's a 3-time Pro Bowler in his own right, most recently in 2019. He had 3 straight Pro Bowls there between 2017 and 2019. Of the players that we've mentioned on today's show, he is the oldest of those involved at this point, but the production has still been there. You look at what he did in 2022, 6 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 22 tackles, 7 tackles for loss. 2021, he was a nice addition for the Chiefs. They were very excited about what he brought to the table in that midseason trade they made with the Steelers. Finished up with 25 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. I'll say this as we're wrapping up. We've given you a few names here. Kyle Van Noy is the one that intrigues me the most. That's the guy I would sign if I was the Baltimore Ravens. He obviously is still a fine football player. He's got championship pedigree, and he's a very good teammate. And you look at this Ravens team, there's a lot of young options, right, when it comes to the pass rushers and such. A veteran presence, if that's what you're looking for, Kyle Van Noy, I think could be your guy. Now, I'll say this. I don't like the idea of not re-signing Justin Houston. I think that's a mistake. I wish this Ravens team would have kept Justin Houston. Coming off a season where he led the team in sacks and didn't look like he was 34 years old at all. But that said, you move on, try to find the next best option. I think Kyle Van Noy could be that. So, what do you think about what I just said there? Will the Ravens regret not re-signing Justin Houston? I think they will. If you agree with that statement, type T for true. If you disagree, type F for false. Let us know what you think. Will the Ravens regret that or not? T for true, F for false. Hit me up on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. Tyler Jones Live. You can find me there. I'll see you next time here on Ravens Rundown.